Turn on the torch, light up the flame. Time to melt some glass, my friends. There you are. Here I am to explain, to teach, and create again. So you want to get into glass blowing. Part 2. And today we're actually going to light up this torch at least to show you some of the what I call flame dynamics, because each torch has its own characteristics, has its own way of melting glass. And depending upon what you want to do, whether you want to do tiny little things or whether you want to do a lot of big things, is what type of torch that you would want to sort of, I guess you could say, dedicate your mind to for the time being. For a, I guess you could say, a budget torch, the one that I got, which was pretty much, it came with the oxygen regulator, a propane or a acetylene regulator, about 10 to 12 foot of hose, I'm not sure what, but a long little bit of hose, and torch tips that I could use on this torch. And I can do a URL again of me demoing this torch to show you that it is possible to melt glass with that. Also, I have this one. That's I have it on a, it was on a different stand, but that stand broke, so I put it on a base. You won't believe what this base used to be. It used to be, next time you look at those credit card machines at registers at the grocery stores, this was the top of the credit card machine. In other words, you could spin it side to side and back and forth, but I just used the bottom part. And anyway, a little bit of ingenuity. Matter of fact, the base on this one is the same thing. It swivels and you can go up and down, and I've just got it clamped to the base of my table here. That's an oxygen propane torch. This one is an oxygen propane torch. That one was an oxygen propane torch. This type of torch here is just propane. And if you just want to get started in melting glass and playing with it, that's how I started. I'm not giving you, but if you have the money and the resources, the torch that you get, I would say a first step torch would be that national type torch, because you can take one tip off and put on a bigger tip, or take that tip off and even put on another tip that has multi-holes on it. And the multi-holes will work for whatever whatever you want to do it with. Now, also, today I will put in the URL down below connection to the URL of me and how the oxygen concentrators are hooked up on my system. That's what I'm using mainly at the moment, and I will do a video coming up soon of me doing on an oxygen tank, and I will probably have to demo every single torch that I have, except the propane torch, of course, and how it works on the oxygen tank instead of just the concentrator. Now, at the moment, I have two, and I'll give you a quick glance here. I have two, one there and one there. They look a little beaten, and I probably shouldn't have taken that off. Now I won't be able to get it back to right where it was. There we go. Oh, stay. Not going to do it. There we go. I have two 10 liter per minute oxygen concentrators hooked up to this system. Most of the time I use just one, but there are times where I want to do a bigger, meaner thing, so I turn on both concentrators and get a little bit better pressure, and it melts the glass the way I want it. This torch that I have, the Carlisle, works really well off these two concentrators. It would work even better if I had more oxygen pressure, but the way I work my glass, this is more than efficient for me. or it does the job for me. Now, I will light this torch and melt something before this video is over, but not quite yet. I talked about tools, where you get them. I got graphite dowels, I've got marble molds, basically, and they help you get things round, help you shape things while it's hot instead of using your hands. Of course, there's the way they do it in the furnace work, which is old wet newspaper. I've never used that method myself, but hey, push comes to shove and you got to do something. Hey, might work for you. Now, tools. The type of tools that I have are pliers, tweezers, wire cutters. I use them a lot to nip pieces of glass in half. Like, for example, I did that probably on the last video. Of course, it's not going to do it right now. See there? It cuts right. I don't know if you saw that or not. I'll try to do it one more time on camera. That went way, way far away. I don't even know where it went to. But yes, you can nip glass with that. Also, the dichroic glass that I use, I have a lot of, and there you just look up the search engine on my name and dichroic, and you'll find a few videos on what I've done there. Glass, again, is hot enough to burn you and sharp enough to cut you. So you want to think safety while you're working with this stuff. Always think hot. In other words, you just put down a piece of glass and then turn your head and then look back at it and you say, oh, let me see what it looks like. Don't do that. It's still very hot. It may look cold, but it's still, think hot. Always think hot until you know it's been sitting at least on the bench for a good 4 or 5 minutes, and then it might still be hot. Also, you'll hear a clicking noise going on in the background. Today, I have an oven. I should have done it that way. I have a annealing oven going on, clicking away, and that's what that noise is. And that is annealing the marbles that I just finished doing, which are pretty cool. Dealing with, it's just around Halloween, almost there. Got a couple of weeks to go, and I did some skull marbles. I just got a skull push. Kind of looks pretty interesting, and I made some marbles with it. And I'm also going to make some turtles, and I might even make a frog or two with that skull push. And I'll call them the frog and turtle Morty. And if I make it with a pink bow, I guess I could call it Morticia. But that's a different story. Glass. The type of glass that I use most of the time is Pyrex. It's like test tubes, cookware. It melts at a very higher temperature. If you want to get into beads and doing smaller and melt faster, you can get into the COE coefficient of expansion in the 90s or the 104s, and that will melt a little faster for you. Right now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and melt a piece of glass. And to you, it's going to be instantaneous, but to me, I've got to stop, hook up things, and turn it all on. So be patient with me. Okay? Okay. Finally getting back to it. I've got the 1 liter per minute oxygen concentrator going at the moment. Let's see if I can get, there we go. And I'm only going to use, for this demonstration, I'll demo the whole thing though. This type of torch, instead of having to take off tips and change tips, you can, with one basic torch, you can either get a very fine flame or get a very big bushy flame and melt a whole bunch of glass all at once, okay? Sorry about it being a little dark, but that's so that you can see what's going on inside the flame. Now, one of the first things I teach is a snail. And with that, wouldn't hurt to have some graphite, but if you have to do it straight to the wood, a piece of wood to start out with, hey, you got to start somewhere. If you don't have graphite, don't worry about it. You'll get there. Patience, persistence, everything happens. If you really, really want it to happen, it'll work for you. Okay. Now, those were a set of tweezers. That's another set of tools that's good to have. Have them in bigger sizes. You can probably go to a flea market, yard sale, whatever, and find a whole bunch. Now what I'm doing is spinning the glass. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can. Watch my hand here. I'm going to do it. You see what I'm doing? I'm sort of rolling it in the glass, in my fingers, and I can do it back and forth like this or like this. And if you get a chance to practice with a pencil, this method, it would be good for you, because learning how to make this right where you want it to be, in other words, zeroing it into the flame, for some reason. Getting a lot of dirt on this stuff, but neither here nor there. But we'll go on. Now I'm going to make a round ball, and that's one of the first things that helps you. You're spinning it, and you'll tilt it downward, and it'll roll into a ball. Roll into a ball. You just gotta be patient with it, and if it sort of starts slumping, heat it on the other side, and keep spinning, and you can get it back to center again. Okay. First step, you got a nice round ball going on, and that round ball will be the shell to the snail. Now, all you have to do now is heat up just one side only, like so. And touch and twist. Let it cool a little bit. Now we're going to bend it back and forth. It should break off eventually. There it goes. Got it a little bit too hot, I think. And there you got your swirl pattern going on for the snail. Now, you did it clockwise on one side, but to make the swirl believable, now you got to do counterclockwise on the other side, because that way the swirls will match side to side. Let it cool. Bend it back and forth. And there you go. Now that's the shell part. Now the color you want when you... Now this is what I call a cold welt. See that orange right there on this little small one? Now I'm going to touch it to the top of this piece there, and it will hold at that spot, if I did it right, until I tap it off. Okay? Now I'm going about 1/4 of an inch down below that shell and pulling off, and this is going to be the base to the snail. Okay? Now I'm going to heat and start to round that in just a little bit, and then I'm going to smash it. Boom. And now you got a nice flat base for that snail to stand. Okay? And what I'm using here is about 9 solid rod. And what you can use is right down to 5 mil rod, which will work out really well for you and do a little quicker and not use as much glass. But I heat it up, pull out a little bit, and then bend up, and heat it a little bit, and bend out. But I'm going a little bit further down the rod. And now this one that I'm doing right here, watch this. I'll pull it out and do this. I call that the DQ swirl. And I do that inside the flame. And if you do that inside the flame, if you pull it out like this, you've got these little thin strands all over the place. and they stick into fingers really, really easy. So to eliminate them before they start, and yes, I still have a few, but to eliminate a lot of them, the best idea is to, again, you pull away and then just sort of inside the flame. You'll get the hang of it, and that DQ swirl comes in real handy with sort of cutting off pieces in the flame. Now I'm going to do 2 thinner strands, 1 touch, and I did a nice weld there, and pull outward. And you want, when you put 2 pieces together, you're going to make sure that you get that same color on both, and touch, and they become 1 piece of glass if you do it right. Not 2 pieces of glass just stuck together. Now, all I've got to do now is a tail to this guy, and I'm going to flatten him a little bit better, and I'm going to put him in the oven. But if you do not have an oven, vermiculite, it's a potting soil medium. You can warm the whole piece up all the way around, and then stick it in vermiculite and let it cool down slowly. You'll still have some that might crack and break, but this will save a whole lot of them until you get an oven. If you're really going to get serious about glass blowing, you're going to need an annealing oven to do it right with. And they got small ones, right up to $200 to $300, right up to, if you want to spend it, $4,000 or $5,000. I mean, it's your, if you have the money and you want to really concentrate on something, there you go. And you have 1 snail. And this was done with, again, I tapped it off. And now where I tapped it off, if you do not fire polish it, it will be very, very sharp edge. So you fire polish where you tap it off, and then it will be nice and smooth. If you do not fire polish, there's going to be a sharp edge there. And if you don't do it while it's hot, it's not easy to warm it back up and do it later. So step by step, piece by piece, you got to learn what to do. Now that was another really quick, just a quick demo of things you can do with glass. Figurines, marbles, and that one basic shape, that round shape, it comes in handy, and you'll learn as you go. And I will now stop this. Now you'll learn as you go that, I forgot what I was talking about. An alphabet of shapes. There's a round ball, there's a nice long, you'll draw out a leg or a line for some things, or what I call an L-shaped leg, where you pull it out one direction, heat it up, and bend it in another direction, which comes in handy. The next, another one that I do is called a shark fin. It looks basically, let me see if I got something. Of course, no dragging around when you want. Oh, that might be one. There we go. The basic neck is a shark fin. It's a little thin for a shark fin, but that basic shape for a shark fin. Another one that comes in handy is these wings, and I do have demos on all of that stuff. And again, if you have questions, next week or next time I will be on an oxygen tank, and I will try to demo every single torch that I have so that you guys can see the difference in what the flames can do with a full tank of pressure from an oxygen tank. It has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. If you're in an area where a tank of oxygen costs $40 to $60, that's the disadvantage. If you're in an area where it's only $15 to $20 to fill, that's an advantage. So it's just where you're at and what you're doing. That's why I went to concentrators a long time ago. Was when the last 2 tanks I got were $45 a tank plus delivery fee. And I was like, no way. So from then on, I've gone to concentrators. So anyway, neither here nor there. Glass can be frustrating. And many a time I've been really frustrated with what I'm doing. But walk away. Gain your composure. Come back. It's important to be persistent. If you give up, the glass is won. If you don't give up and keep trying until you get something, you've won. Also, another really very important one is when you're melting glass, don't try to force it in a direction. Let it flow. Let it, like if you're drawing with a pencil, about the same flow or a little less than that. A little less than that, like that. You're not trying to force that. If you start forcing it while you're melting it, it could snap and go in a direction that you don't want it to go in. And it's happened to me. And where it's jabbed my hand a couple of times. Anyway, don't force it. Don't fight it. Let it, go with it. Don't, just let it get to be melting to it at its own pace. And if you got a good flame, it melts really fast. If you got a bad flame, it'll take a little while to do it. And you know what? Sometimes I like the tinier flames so that I can get a little bit more detail in what I do. But that's just me. Some people want to get something big, bad, mean done right now. And that type of torch is a different torch than not what I got right now. Anyway, that's this episode for today. Click like, click subscribe. If you have any questions, please put it down in the comments below. Also the bell. If you click on the bell anytime that I come out with a new video or episode, I will probably do, again, one more dealing with the actual pressure of a propane and oxygen tank together. And I'll show you the pressures of what you need to have those at and go from there. Depending upon the torch now is where you'll put the pressures on the oxygen and propane tanks. And I will get into more of that next episode. So look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, carpe vitro, and enjoy your